What is going on, Movie Meals? Movie Meals, Loki, we finally got there. Before we get into the review, it's going to be all spoilers, guys. All spoilers for the MCU, all spoilers for the Loki TV show. If you haven't watched it, get out of here. You should have watched it by now, though. Thank you to Movie Meal patrons, Steve, Kimberly, and Karen. Go get some Movie Meals merch. I got some on right now. Great stuff, guys. It would mean a lot. All linked in the description. Let's get into it. So, Kyle was on vacation. Have been the destination site for people's vacation. So I've just been incredibly busy entertaining people, seeing family, seeing friends. So we didn't get to episodes 4, 5, or 6. So we're just going to talk about the end, I think, here. We can touch on things from those episodes. If Kyle, you want to touch on, I guess, super fast, any specifics from the other episodes, go for it. But let's just get into Loki. And so take it away, my guy. Where you want to start here?
I want to talk about the arc of Loki's character that I saw between episodes 4 through 6 because I thought they were done marvelously well. Because what I was seeing from those final 3 episodes was Loki finally like looking at himself in the mirror almost and realizing, people think of me this way because of my own doing. So I need to start learning, how to change myself for the better. And I think what these last 3 episodes were able to do was that they were just able to show Loki, finding those feelings, finding those realizations, and being able to kind of look at himself and just be able to push himself to where he's becoming someone different. I mean, the episode where, he's teaming up with the Lokis and he's battling all the, evil Lokis that are on the Void planet or whatever it was in episode 5. That was it was moments like that where he's like staring at himself, like fighting each other, and he's like, is this really what I do? Like, I could be better than this. And it was moments like that, and also conversations that he's had with Mobius and Sylvie also, where it was really you were really seeing him go through a progression of becoming a better person, of a better I guess god, not a better human, but and it was just so much different than what we saw from him in the original MCU timeline, I guess, so to speak. And I just was really appreciative about it. It especially hit me when, in the final episode, we're seeing him trying to convince Sylvie, like, let's at least take a breath. Let's listen to what looks to be Kang the Conqueror talking to them about them possibly like having to rule the TVA and stuff like that in order to keep the timelines from, messing up. And he was saying to her, I don't want the throne. I don't want what I used to want. I want to help you. I want to help other people. I want to do the right thing. And I think this show just did a really good job of getting to that line, to that moment where he's finally accepting of wanting to be a better person, and he's proving that with that line. And I just really, that was my biggest worry throughout this show, but I got to give it to the showrunners and the directors here for doing such a great job at like changing up how he could have gone through that arc all over again and just making it such an interesting concept too.
I hated this show. We didn't get Mobius on a jet ski. It sucks. Kidding. Yeah, it's Loki's turn. That's really great. I think you start seeing the turn in episode, it was episode 1 to me when he watches what we have seen, what is going to become of him. And then I think you start to see that turn. I like all that. Him meeting all the other Lokis in episode 5. I really like the fact that Lokis are always variants, that Lokis at some point are going to get bothered because and it's said in, I think it's Thor Ragnarok or it's Thor 2 where Loki talks about that he is just chaos. He likes the chaos of the universe. And so it makes sense that King the Conqueror, this version that we got in this show, is like, I had to get rid of these guys because I'm trying to create order. We did get Kang. We got Kang the Conqueror.
Yes.
It made sense. It made sense. It was a thing. Where we got crazy with Mephisto, it made way too much sense to not do Kang the Conqueror. We got a version of him. He even says it. He's like, I've had many names. I've been called Conqueror. I've been called Emperor. I've been called this. I don't even actually think he ever dropped his name as Kang. But
no.
So Yeah, I liked the last episode. I thought it was a bit underwhelming for me, but it's because it was like I
Hmm,
want more right now. I do not want to
sure.
wait. I don't want to wait for season 2. I want the next thing in the MCU right now.
Hmm.
Um, the memes that this show have spawned have been incredible with Doctor Strange looking at all these like Fox characters and everybody showing up and it's like, what on earth has happened?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I liked it. I liked episode 5 too, them running through the kind of end of time with Earth. There were so many Easter eggs in that. It was like Avengers Tower. There was a
The
helicopter
Thanos
that had
copter.
Thanos. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was tons of stuff. Loki alligator took over the world. Um,
Yeah.
I really like that kid's line, the kid Loki, where he's like, "Why is he the leader? Why is this kid the leader?" And he turns around, he's like, "Well, I killed Thor, guy."
Yeah.
Uh, but
Sit down.
I liked it. The line you brought it up, the line where he's like, "I think we're a lot more powerful than we realize," and he's starting to realize that if he actually like worked hard like Thor, he would be revered as like an incredibly powerful god with the older
Hmm.
Loki, creating an illusion to trick Eliath.
And
Um,
the city, an
yeah,
illusion of the city. Yeah.
it was really cool. I like the Sylvie character a lot. I think the show, every episode, I really, really enjoyed. Episode 3, I think, was by far the weakest,
Sure. Yeah.
but I still enjoyed it. Um, yeah, the ending, man. First of all, I did not love Lovecraft County on HBO. I watched the first like 4 episodes. It was just not for me. And I can get weird into sci-fi, but it was the pacing that was a problem for me. But I really liked the main actor. Hearing he was
Hmm.
cast as Kang the Conqueror and Ant-Man Quantumanium really got me excited. Um, him showing up here was awesome. He was so cool. He was
Oh,
so
he
cool.
stole it.
He was goofy. He was like all over the place. Like he was really cool. His line, yeah, he talked about it where he's like, "Look, I don't want you guys. You guys can take over. Like you want this throne, run the timeline. I've got other things I'd like to do now." It makes sense. I whined about it from the first episode. It makes so much sense now why they're all Earthlings because Kang's an Earthling. Um, I liked that. But man, the MCU is going in an interesting direction. It was the worst post-credit scene we've ever gotten because it wasn't a scene. It was just saying that Loki is getting a season 2, uh,
Oh.
and that he will be back. Great, but I want to know what's happening right now. So here's what I'm thinking. I want to know where you think. So he said, Kang said, if you kill me, it's going to reset, and another Kang that wasn't me will win, and there will be a new timeline. So the show ends with Mobius not knowing who Loki is. And then there's a statue of Kang.
Hmm.
TVA is still a thing. So does this mean that the multiverse has been ripped open? I don't think so. I think we're in just one new timeline, one new sacred timeline that this Kang's future is from. And this is why the intro was as elite as it is, because the
Hmm.
intro was like all the iconic lines from every character in the MCU,
Yeah.
telling us at the start of this show that this is what you've invested, and ending the show saying we are changing. That's about to be different. And I think
Okay.
that we have seen some crazy stuff. I don't know what the heck where we're gonna go from here. I want to know your thoughts.
I kind of like that idea. Well, I mean, I kind of like that idea. I at least like that idea because it makes sense why Mobius wasn't able to recognize Loki. Like he was asking, like, "Who are you?" And I know, like, the TVA is outside of time, but since things like really changed a whole lot, I think it even affected the TVA so much that it could have affected like
I don't
that
think they're
one
outside of
timeline that.
time. I think they're in the
Oh, I
quantum
thought they
realm.
were outside of
I
time.
think that's what they say. but I think that that's
Right.
just not true. I think a human figured this out, Kang in the year 20 whatever, the 30th century. I
Yeah,
think
30th
Kang,
century.
and that the TVA has been hinted at of being in the quantum realm. I don't think they're actually outside of
Mm,
time. I think he's
okay.
just figured out a way to keep time out. You know what I mean? There's a bit
Interesting.
of
Yeah.
difference there, but
Okay.
keep
Then I
going.
think that
Sorry.
no, I think you describing it that way does kind of make a lot of sense for having that timeline being able to change. I do think we will get into multiverse stuff, like between what it sounds like may happen from Spider-Man Far or Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. I do think that is going to be explored, but I don't know how long it's going to be explored. You know what I mean? I almost wonder if Feige's just going to be like, let's just see what happens. And then, I don't know, maybe after Doctor Strange or something, he'll be like, okay, that was fun, but now let's move on and just focus on this new timeline that you're describing, Alex. So I agree. Like, I think there could be some changes. I don't know how major they're going to be for this, for kind of like this new established MCU timeline. I don't even know if I'm describing it correctly, but I just don't know when it comes to the multiverse stuff how long it's going to keep up, because I feel like if it goes on for too long, it could easily get messy and convoluted, and I think audiences probably wouldn't like that it gets so messy and convoluted. So that's just my one question about all of this. But I mean, obviously, we have to see how it goes. And Kevin Feige, we trust, obviously. But that is the one thing that I am wondering. But I do think it helps with your theory, though. I think you're onto something there.
I don't think the TVA is actually outside of time, but if they are,
Mm-hmm.
then theoretically you could easily make this work by just saying that that Loki season 2 is actually the only thing affected by this. And that the actual MCU timeline that we know of is actually not
Mm-hmm.
affected by this. But
Yeah.
he says it. I mean, they show the multiverse being ripped open, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, multiverse is ripped open! Everybody's coming back. We're gonna have all these cool characters." And it's like, but that's not what Kang said. Kang says the line, "If you kill me, some
Mm-hmm.
other Kang is gonna do what I did." I
Mm-hmm.
stopped that from happening. That's what the TVA is for, to keep that from not happening. And when they disrupted it, all those timelines got released. Boom, we have a new Kang, but this one likes to be worshipped more as a conqueror.
Yes.
So what do we get next? We get What If next month. And then is it Shang-Chi? And then is it Hawkeye?
I think Hawkeye will be happening in like September, October, and November is when Eternals gets released.
So, that's a really interesting point. Is the Eternals? I've seen online people have talked about in the trailer. They say we never got involved until now, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's because of the snap." And now people are going, I think it's because of Loki, because of the show. So
Yeah.
there is that argument that
Yeah.
maybe it's the Eternals that show up on this new Earth Loki is created, and they fix it, because they would probably not be affected by what Kang and Loki did. So
It
they
does look pretty
probably
desolate.
fix it. It's true. So, and maybe that's it. And then maybe it resets before we ever get anything. Or maybe that's when we actually get a multiverse ripped open, because they keep freaking teasing it. But I have yet to actually see the multiverse be ripped
Where is
open.
it?
I've seen it on a monitor. I've seen noodles come out of a big noodle, but I've never seen all the noodles separate. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I liked it. If that is what Eternals is about, that's really smart. And now you start to think, okay, maybe we're gonna get a second Eternals trailer in front of Shang-Chi, and it's going to talk
Yeah.
about this, if that is indeed what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Which would make a lot of sense, because these are characters that talk about how they've been on Earth. They do mention the Avengers, though, in the trailer, so maybe it's just a different version of them. I don't know, but I do think, yes, it could get a little convoluted and a little tough to follow, but I do trust Kevin Feige. I just saw a quote today from James Gunn saying how WB was not involved in the editing of Suicide Squad for him at all, but Kevin Feige is very heavily involved with the editing and the process of everything from start to finish.
Yeah.
So I trust him. I know he knows what he's doing. This show, though, I really liked. I'm pumped for Michael Waldron. Is that his name, right? The showrunner and
I believe
writer.
so.
I'm
Yeah.
pumped for him writing this Star Wars script with Kevin Feige. I'm so excited now. But he did a good job. I don't know where they're going. That's why it was underwhelming, because I want to know. I want to know what's happening, what's going to
Yeah.
happen next. Because if Doctor Strange, is it Spider-Man or Doctor Strange first?
Spider-Man, which comes out in December.
This December?
Yep.
So that could be a big thing on what's going on. Like there's a lot that's going to tease it. Hawkeye will be interesting because Hawkeye does take place in our time after the events of Endgame.
Yep.
This is all spoilers for Marvel. So if you haven't seen Black Widow yet, sorry, spoiler here. We know that we're going to have a lot of characters in the active timeline in that show, with Florence Pugh being in that show. So
yeah.
I'm interested where we're going from here. I like this multiverse stuff. Did you see too, Hugh Jackman the other day, what he was doing?
No. What do you do?
Hugh Jackman's posting a couple things on his Instagram story about how he's considering options, and post a picture with Kevin Feige that he took recently, and that some things are happening. And I
maybe.
think we're
Yeah.
getting our boy. I think Kevin walked up and said, "Look, my guy, you're still in pretty good shape. We don't need you to be in great shape. That's why you didn't want to do these movies anymore. I got a story for you." And Hugh read it. And he was like, "Holy cow. I'm in."
I mean, I'm sure there was a conversation at one point.
And this, I mean, Loki just said, "Hey, the multiverse isn't ripped open, but what universe are we in? Who's in charge? What Kang the Conqueror is this? Is this, are we in the Fox universe? Are they going to make an X-Men movie? Is this where we get stuff?" I do hope they go with Kang, the connection to Reed Richards. Right? Because isn't Kang in the comics his son?
A descendant of Reed Richards, but I
His
don't know if
grandson or something?
a great grandson or something like that. I don't know if they'll do that, if they'll tie it in that way. But I mean, this is just our first glimpse. We have I mean, if you can write it well, sure, it can work. I just don't know if that's the route that they'll take. I have no idea.
If they take that route, we know it won't be John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Well, yeah.
Unless they adopted Kang back in the day. Like,
maybe
those skin colors don't line up. Be cool to bring in a guy, some really cool talented actors, and switch up some ethnicities to bring in for the Fantastic Four. That would be a cool twist. I mean, they tried it with Johnny Storm, but I think that'd be a cool idea, because there's some talent out there.
Yeah, I mean, those characters don't need to be white. They don't need to be white.
Who would be a great Reed Richards? Is it Corey Hawkins from In the Heights and then Straight Outta Compton?
Oh yeah, yeah.
He would be excellent.
I can see that.
He can be nerdy. Like, we saw that in Kong, but he can be tough, because we saw that in Straight Outta Compton. I'm all for it. I'd be down.
Sure.
He's got the look. He can sing. We could make a musical about it. Anything else you want to talk about with our Loki discussion?
I am super pumped about Kang the Conqueror. I'm really happy that we're finally getting this character. I've been seeing a lot of people being unsure about the performance, but we have to keep in mind, like, he explicitly says that there are multiples of me, and we're probably going to see multiples of this character. So and I think his performance made sense, given it's a dude who spent like eternity and then some on the edge of time and space all alone as he's trying to keep everything together and not losing it. So I get why he seemed like a little kooky, a little crazy, but man, the actor's just so charismatic. I mean, that entire episode was pretty much the similar reason why I enjoyed episode 1 so much. It was just great dialogue, great conversations with charismatic actors that I just want to listen to. And he just, it may seem like an underwhelming finale, but man, I just think like it was a good cliffhanger for season 1. Can't wait for season 2. And I'm really happy that this was the introduction to Kang the Conqueror. It wasn't what I was expecting to see of him, but I still enjoyed the heck out of the performance. And I enjoyed the heck out of this show too. This show really took me by surprise right from the get-go.
So I just want to do the math out loud for me. So we have our timeline, the MCU timeline. This would be what they called the sacred timeline. And
Mhm.
Kang created the TVA after a war between, in the future, a huge war between multiverses. Everybody was fighting. All these Kangs fought about who would be in charge because they were so much smarter and all
Yeah.
this. He won and created the TVA to stop variants from other dimensions, other timelines, other universes, other multiverses, things like that. Sylvie, all these Lokis who are trying to cross timelines and break that. That's why he created the TVA, correct?
Basically,
So
yeah.
they pull Sylvie because Sylvie's about to do something that's going to cause a problem. So she's a variant. Loki crossing became a problem. So all these other people they're creating problems throughout the timeline, which is going to throw it
Mhm.
back into war, which when we think of war, like I feel like all the universe is fighting, but in reality, it's just a bunch of Kangs who are like, I want to be the best. It's like I want to conquer
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Iron Man's just still flying around Earth, just having a good time saving the day. But so I think it's 100%. We have a new timeline. We have a new sacred timeline. We don't know how it's going to play out, but I don't think the multiverse has been ripped open. I think a new Kang showed up through time, created a TVA as well, and they're figuring out their own issues. And it's a new Kang who likes to be treated like a god. I don't know if Sylvie's coming back. Also, I don't think Sylvie is a Loki. Never calls herself Loki. I think she is going to be Enchantress at the end of the day. Uh, but
I'd be down for that.
who knows? Um, so yeah, well, great show. Enjoyed it. What if in a little bit, which will be a nice little kind of sideshow, fun little animated adventure to distract
Mhm.
us from the fact that they changed the timeline and everything's different.
Everything's already different. Why do we need what if?
I better get what if Ant-Man climbed into Thanos's butt and went huge.
They'll make that episode.
It'll happen. All right,
It'll
guys. Thank
happen.
you for watching. Thank you to Movie Meal patrons. Go be a member of the Patreon. Go get some merch. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Comment below, guys. Start conversations. You like Loki? What'd you think? Go check out Black Widow, all that great stuff. Yeah. And as always, thanks for watching, Mom.
See you guys.